Wishing you all a very wonderful evening. I'm sure that you all are as exhilarating as I am today, because at this occasion we're going to virtually meet the father of modern marketing as the world knows him. Here's a hearty and a warm welcome to all of you in this webinar on COVID impact marketing strategies for the new normal. This webinar is no ordinary and shall be one of the most memorable and noteworthy occasions because of the esteemed presence of our guest today. A master of the masters, a marketing author, a consultant, and a renowned professor, Mr. Philip KOTLER. Mr. KOTLER is the S.C. Johnson Distinguished Professor of International Marketing in the J.L. Kellogg School of Management. He has been honored as one of the world's leading marketing thinkers. He received his MA degree in Economics 1953 from the University of Chicago and his PhD degree in Economics in 1956 from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and has received honorary degrees from 22 universities, including Stockholm University, the University of Zurich, Athens University of Economics and Business, Budapest School of Economics and Administrative Science, the Krakow School of Business and Economics, and DePaul University. He is an author of over 150 articles and 80 books, including Principles of Marketing, Marketing for Hospitality and Tourism, Strategic Marketing for Nonprofit Organizations, Social Marketing, Marketing Places, The Marketing of Nations, Confronting Capitalism, Democracy in Decline, and Advantage the Common Good. His research covers strategic marketing, consumer marketing, business marketing, professional services marketing, and e-marketing. He has been a consultant to IBM, General Electric, AT&T, Bank of America, Merck Motorola, Ford, and others. He has lectured several times in Italy, Sweden, China, Japan, India, Indonesia, Australia, Mexico, Brazil, and many other countries. Mr. KOTLER has helped create the field of social marketing that focuses on helping individuals and groups modify their behaviors towards healthier and safer living styles. He also created the concept of demarketing to aid in the task of reducing the level of demand. He also developed the concepts of prosumers, atmospherics, and societal marketing. He has been an honored recipient of various awards such as Albert Nelson Marquis Lifetime Achievement Award from Marquis Who's Who 2018, voted third Guru in Management 2020, first person to receive the Leader in Marketing Thought Award from American Marketing Association. Students, you would be amazed to know that a survey which was conducted consisted of 1,000 executives conducted in 25 countries about the most influential business writers or management gurus by the Financial Times. Mr. KOTLER ranked 4th after Peter Drucker, Bill Gates, and Jack Welch. If I go on talking about his achievements today, then probably this night may pass by. But to cherish his achievements, his knowledge and contribution is good enough for the generations to take advantage of it. I'm sure a 2 minutes introduction cannot justify his grandiosity, but I would like to end it by highlighting that Mr. KOTLER received 22 honorary degrees from the most reputed universities of the world. So students, a lesson for you, learning never ends. Sir, it's a great honor to have you here amongst us. We welcome you with utmost respect. I would now like to pass on this platform to you as our students are pretty eager to learn from you. The platform is all yours, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're clearly audible.
Okay, very good. I am so pleased to be here with all of you. And may I say that I want to tell you a little bit about my being in India. I actually brought my wife to India in 1956, where we spent I would say, 9 months. And we were doing my dissertation, which was a study in India of a certain problem, but that's aside from the point right now. So I got acquainted with people in Bombay, of course you call it Mumbai now, people in Delhi, people in Calcutta, which has another name now. And I've been always a friend and a person so interested in what's going on in India. I meet a lot of Indian professors in the United States. And in the field of marketing, we count many Indian marketing people who have come to the United States to study as preeminent. My own friend, Mohan Sawhney, who's on my faculty at Northwestern University. Nirmalya Kumar, who's now a professor teaching at Singapore and who was a high-level person at Tata. V. Kumar, who has written fantastic things in marketing. And so I feel that very close to everything happening in India. Now, during the question period, we may share more ideas with you, but I would like to handle this terrible problem affecting the whole world called COVID. And COVID is one of 7 wicked problems. And so I will start with my slides, and I assume all of you can hear me. So
Yes,
I
sir,
will,
you're audible.
can you show the first slide? Should I hit some button?
So you can, yeah, you can click on share screen.
Okay. Okay, now I'm going to click on particularly my slides, which are not shown on share screen right now, but they must be somewhere. Let's see, could it be here? No, and it is not, that's not it. See if you can find my slide.
Sir, I can help you with that. You can click on this green icon which says share screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that. Now, in typing on, I've already typed on it, but I have 6 things that I can see available to me. My own presentation, and here is PowerPoint. Maybe this is it.
You can click on your presentation.
There
yes.
you go. Now, here's the thing. I'd like to go back one. All right, let's start. Yes, we live at a time of many wicked problems. And the one I'm going to talk about is COVID. And of course, COVID has created an economic slowdown that is a disaster. I read somewhere that in India, here is from an Economist magazine, that your economy is 23%. Last quarter, the economy shrunk by 23%. And that you're getting infections reported of about that covered maybe 100,000 people a day or something like that. So it's a terrible problem. We also have other problems than the economic slowdown. We have the income inequality problem. I think that's a problem at the root of a lot of the problems. We're coming now to worry about the climate, the fires, the hazards, the hurricanes around the world, partly caused because there's a warming planet. And as a matter of fact, it has to do with giving up the old ways of getting energy from coal, getting energy from fuel and gas and so on, and switching to solar and switching to wind. So climate change will be occupying our attention for a long time, and we hope COVID ends sooner so we could really work on the next problem. The problems also are racial and ethnic injustice, and that capitalism, which is a dynamic system that has created wonderful goods and services, is benefiting not enough people. It's benefiting a few people very much. We call them billionaires, but there's also half the world or more that is not benefiting very much. And then we have the problem of our own democratic institutions are under siege. We tend to be electing people who have raised a lot of money from donors, and the donors really are setting the strategy, not the people who voted in these people. But let me move on. Next slide, please.
So you can use the same arrow. Bottom of the screen, there's an arrow. You can use the same arrow to change the slide.
Okay, let me just check on that at the bottom of the screen.
You can click on your screen once, and then you can use the arrow key on your keyboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
COVID itself has many impacts, and there's the high infection rates, and then the many deaths, and then the unemployment, and then poverty, which is actually we were making progress, reducing the level of poverty before COVID, and now we've gone backward. And nations are spending so much money now and having to raise so much high indebtedness. And we don't have a vaccine yet. We should have one within a year or two, and that will help considerably, especially if we can distribute it broadly. And then there is a real collision between those people who will wear masks and practice social distancing and those who even deny COVID. I don't know how extreme it is in India, but we're having very many battles over this. And my own position is that anyone who is infected is a spreader or a super spreader of the disease, the virus, and they should really wear a mask. Countries around the world have responded differently to COVID. And the three ways I would suggest are first, the total lockdown way, which China did. They really locked people up in their homes, and essentially don't leave, under quarantine and so on. And that method favors saving lives. Sweden, as an exception, decided to not do any lockdowns. And the report is this: Sweden was the only one in Scandinavia to do that. And their economy kept working maybe a little better than the other economies in that area. But the death rate was much higher than in Denmark or in Finland. So Sweden was preferring what we call life work to life, in a sense. There was a middle way. Looking back, we know this would have been most sensible. Older people stay at home. Gatherings of more than 10 persons are possible, but they must stand 6 feet apart and wear masks. It would also be a middle way to keep the essential industries going. We need our food and other things. And then make sure the hospitals are broad and large and can take all the cases that come in. So there was a middle way that some of the countries have practiced. Okay, you know most of that. Let me move on. We didn't do very well in the United States. Europe did better than we did. We, under President Trump, he was slow in reacting, and he still cares more about his election than about the lives of people. And so he has a lot of critics. He has a loyal following of about 40% of the people. They're hypnotized by him, but he has the other 60% in a state of hating him or just being very unhappy with him. But now let's talk about what has happened with COVID. And here are consumers' changes. And you know them. Most consumers are actually changing their products and brands. And the big idea is they're moving for value. Even the middle class, which wanted middle class products, are hurt by the circumstances and switching down. So much so that I would say there are two groups of products now: value products and luxury products. In other words, there are middle products too that are sort of, they're okay, and I'm middle class and I should be taking them. But really, I think the real thing that companies ought to do is reposition and either be outstanding in making products with real value, which means low cost, or products for the people who have money, lots of money, which we call luxury products. Many consumers, in other words, are trading down. Many of them are buying online. In the case of my own wife, she hasn't been in a store for 2 or 3 years. Everything is an order on the computer, and it comes. If it is what she expected, she's very happy. Otherwise, she sends it back. So that the implication is that COVID may kill stores, certainly reduce the number of stores. And the problem for marketers is, what should stores do to stay alive and serve? Many consumers are using online to search for real value. And I think a lot of companies around the world are not aware of that yet, that we have smarter consumers, that consumers can learn more about your product than you yourself as a company know about your product. Consumers talk to each other on Facebook and so on. What did you think of that car you just bought? Are you disappointed? Oh, I will never touch that car myself then, if that's your experience. So that's happening. More consumers are interested in health and staying well. And by the way, because many of people have been staying at home or working at home, where their company allows them to work from home, they have lower expenses. They're not paying for the subway or the train to work and using that time up. And being home, they're cooking more and saving money from restaurants, because every restaurant is charging you with a markup to cover their expenses. So some consumers are saving a lot of money during this period if they are working at home. And we are all influenced by social media and so on. So let me move on. I've noticed very special groups of consumers, and they could be opportunities for different companies. In India, I'm sure we find some people who are life simplifiers. They feel that there may be too many things that are distracting from what they really want to be about. They would like to eat, let's say they have had the money to eat as much as they want and to buy many goods, but they somehow, they're sort of rejecting over consumption and too much clutter in their lives. They'd like to not own a car anymore. In my country, in New York City, young people don't want a car. They can get around much faster without one. So it's a move from ownership to renting. More things we're renting. We even can rent a place to stay at someone else's home at night instead of going to a hotel. There's another group that is worried about whether the earth is able to support the amount of consumption that has been occurring. And if we get more people to live on a US standard of living, we don't think the earth will have the land and the ocean and the sources to supply and support lifestyles of that kind. And besides, we're having problems with our ocean and the fish and the whales and so on. And we're having over timbering, cutting down too much timber. And you know that. So there's a group of people who are for less growth, slower growth. Then there are people who are worried about the climate, that the earth is heating up. And as such, we are going to living with poor air and poor water and endangering the planet. There are some people who are even changing what they eat. They are basically vegetarians now, or vegans, and so on and so forth, be feeling it's awful to have a whole industries killing animals and raising them that way. And then there are people who are conservation activists who believe that we should make goods that last longer. We should fix them up, repair them when they are a little old. Certainly, we should make sure they get reused by other needy people. And these conservation activists wish that better goods would be made that would last longer and we wouldn't have to make so many. The company that comes to mind there is Patagonia. And Patagonia will do everything to help you not buy new clothes from Patagonia. But I just wanted to alert people to this. Now, when COVID started, there was panic. And the company's response were to reduce staffs. Now, there's a difference between furloughing a worker and laying off a worker. And the good companies did their best to furlough, which means you're still working for the company. And I'm going to hire you again when things get better. A layoff means I've sort of fired you because I can't handle the cost. Companies lowered their prices because people were panicked about buying things. And many companies reduced their marketing budgets and their ads. I think that was a mistake. I think the best thing to do is continue to talk to your close customers about their problems, not about your product so much as showing that you are trying to help them survive in this time. Many companies canceled orders that they had expected because they weren't sure that the demand would be there. And then they even did their best to delay payments for things they've already bought or would buy, asking for much more generous terms before they pay. So those responses are familiar to everyone. And then some general points that many businesses, especially small ones, I think they're finished. They won't have the means to reopen. There will be a contraction in the number of small businesses. Businesses are going to be very careful about what to order because they don't know what demand is going to be like. How long will COVID last? So they would maybe order less than has been normal for them to order. And then a lot of employees would prefer to work at home if they can. And companies have been generous about that in my country to let employees work when they can here. And the thing that allows this, of course, is Zoom and all kinds of ways nowadays, technically, to communicate. Even why be in your office if you can do it from your home? And then many businesses are reducing their commercial office space. By the way, since half the workers may be working at home, what are you doing with all that commercial real estate? So try to sell it quickly to others who might want more office space. You don't need it. And then there's many businesses, and this may be the most important effect, that are speeding up the internet, speeding up the digital age. They would have gone digital slower than they are, but now they realize that the company's future depends on having the tools to communicate with others and so on. How fast will consumers respond to reopenings is the question, because maybe when you take a big country like India, there are different hot spots where, yeah, COVID is very bad, and there are cool spots where things have been under great control and people are coming back into the market, going shopping, and so on. And how much reopening can take place depends on two very big factors. One is the infection rate rising or declining? And where it is declining in those locations, we're going to see more shopping and return to normal. And the second thing is, has the government decided to help the people who've been damaged and injured by this COVID? And we in the United States passed a multi-trillion-dollar package for people who and companies that have been hurt. And the big issue in the United States is whether we're ready to, now some months later, ready to put out another package. So if the government gets active in helping distressed households, that is better for the economy going back to normal a little better. There's going to be a difference. Older consumers are probably not going to return to the shopping market as much, going to shopping malls or anything like that. They're very careful. In my own case, my wife and I decided, I think we're on our 190th day of not being out in the market, not being at a restaurant. We have plenty of things to do at home, but that's the story. And so let's move on. Now, as far as recovery, industries and companies will differ greatly in how fast they are going to go back into normal production and so on. The essential industries, fast recovery. All hospitals have been kept open if that's at all possible, and big food companies are operating. Banks we need all the time, utilities for our electricity and so on, and construction is going on, manufacturing, and every country has some very big outlets. Our most successful firms are Amazon and Walmart, and they are becoming huge, offering everything. You can get anything at Amazon or Walmart, except buying a car. So far, they'll probably start having a car brand too. Now, the rest of the industries, the recovery is going to be slower. Restaurants and bars, it turns out that outdoor restaurants can, if they can trust the workers having been tested, who wear gloves and wear masks, many people will go and eat at a restaurant outdoors. But indoors, it's going to be much slower. But even indoors, some restaurants are cleaning themselves very carefully. There's one in my city that everyone feels a little more comfortable going to. They've spent so much to be every day cleaned up. And also they check on their workers and everything else. Everyone has gloves, masks, and so on. So that may be necessary. Hotels, some of them are 20% occupied, some of them 50% occupied. And it will be not getting back to normal for a while because hotels usually coexist with the travel world. How many people are flying? Because that's when you need a hotel, when you land in a new city. And as you know, many people don't want to fly. Airlines originally said they'll open up with maybe half of the seats available so that people don't have to sit too close together. Some airplane flights now are full and some people have to travel, but it's going to be slow. We didn't know what to do with our schools and colleges. They started to open. None of them have closed down. Lots of cases of students getting infected with COVID, but not that much hospitalization, or certainly, thank God, no deaths coming out of that, but a lot of illness. And museums are careful. There's some talk that churches or religious organizations where people would congregate in big groups on Sundays or Saturdays, whatever the time, are hurting a lot. People, in other words, is religion itself threatened? Religious, going to church every Sunday or something, where people are avoiding this, what's going to happen? And what's going to happen to culture, opera, ballet, performing arts? Will people feel, enough people feel safe sitting in an auditorium to watch a performance when in fact many of these performances can be seen all the time on TV, on your TV set. So there's a lot of questions. When you think of what your company should do, first question is, what do you as a company think is the most plausible scenario that the virus, the COVID virus, will spread, will be controlled, that your country or your city will have good control over getting the infection rate down? That makes a difference, because if you succeed in getting infection and death rates down, you can open up faster. Or do you want to live on the scenario that not only is the virus still spreading, but there will be a second wave? Because if there's going to be a second wave, you say, why should you invest and do basic things that you had planned to do? So will the virus be with us forever, or until vaccines are found that can work? You got to make some assumption. And that assumption will affect what markets you're going to stay in. And you have to have meetings about this. What products to keep and expand, and which ones to drop? Should you modify your value proposition, your message about why your product is good for people? Can you put it a different way? And if you're reopening, you need a campaign to reopen. You got to get a message out there that your store or business is reopening. And do you want to start with lower prices to get people feel more value in coming back to you? And if it's a store, what are you going to do to make sure the store feels safe to the people coming to it? So you sit down in committees of your company. You appoint different people to get the answers to these questions. There's a scheme that McKinsey uses for opening up, that you develop your scenario. That's step 2. What do you expect COVID to happen to COVID? How long? And then you make a broad strategy, point 3, and then you determine the special actions and moves that you will make. And by the way, you always say, if you do that strategy and take those moves, are they robust against we don't know which scenario is going to really happen, and you wish that whatever strategy you're taking is robust regardless of the scenario. In other words, you won't be killed by those steps being taken, even if the worst scenario took place. And then you use trigger points to actually drive your people and your organization to make those steps. You can read more from McKinsey about their frame for strategic crisis action. The things that will matter and change in India and elsewhere as a result of the pandemic are, first of all, is our health system in our country up to the threats that we're facing from the virus? In the United States, the problem is we really should have a Medicare for all system, free medicine for all, paid for by your taxes, basically. And we don't. And though we spend more, and in fact, the US health system is twice as costly as other good health systems, and we're not happy. So in India, what repairs must be done to your health system? Then what about your economy? Do you depend on some of your basic goods to come from abroad? And what happens if the supply chains are interrupted or stopped? In the case of the United States, we found out we didn't make a lot of products that China made for us at lower cost, but if we have problems with China, we have to start making some of those products at home at a higher cost. So there's questioning about global sourcing. And when people are injured in our country, what social nets do we have? We certainly have Social Security and unemployment insurance, and you'll define India's conditions, but do you have a lot of places people who are injured and needing help can go to? Are there food chains, not food chains, but places that people can get food when they're going hungry? What can you do to build up a better safety net? And then, do your banks operate well and responsibly? Do they need some restructuring? And is the government full of leaders with know-how? Are they telling you the right things or the wrong things? I'm one of those who question whether President Trump knows anything about anything. He will tell you whatever you want to believe. So we're not happy. And we're hoping in the election that will take place soon that we get a new government. Okay, let's go to marketing. What is new in marketing? Everyone knows the traditional ideas. They're all in books like of mine and other books, Marketing Management, Principles of Marketing. The first thing is AI. AI is revolutionizing marketing. We are hoping to analyze our data and know our customers better. As a matter of fact, what's going on is we are collecting so much data about individual customers, not just the behavior of segments, but every time you have a credit card and buy something, every time you look at your television set or you go on your computer, information is being generated about your tastes in entertainment, your schedules, and who you spend time with, and how you use your time, and so on. And especially if you're on Facebook, there's so much information about you. So you take the data and you analyze so much about and even an individual customer of yours, how they would respond to offer X versus offer Y. And most of you know about what's happening. And there's, by the way, a lot of criticism of marketing having arrived at that place. Remember, the thing we used to say about marketing is, wouldn't it be wonderful if we always knew what you needed, and at the time you wanted it, and at the price you wanted it, then we can serve you better. So we have our mantra about marketing is a service operation to meet your needs. But as we get to know more about your needs than you know about your needs, there's a creepiness about it, of being manipulated. And as a matter of fact, there's a program watch on your TV set, I think it's in India too. It's called Social Dilemma, which is arguing that we've gone too far and business knows too much about each of us as individuals, and are getting us to be more tribal, continuing to deepen the way we are and who our friends should be, and so on, and creating tribal rather than a shared worldview. Marketing automation is very important to find ways to make things, every company goes to sleep at night, technically, or at least some people running a company go to sleep. Can a lot of decisions be made in the middle of the night that have to be made? Because if you're going to be attacked in a market with a price cut from a competitor in the middle of the night, you might want to match that competitor automatically because you're asleep. And so you've got to make sure that your business decisions are to some extent tactical and ready to be actually implemented without a human decision being made. So a lot of companies are moving into marketing automation to have readiness for these things. Customer journeys mapping is very interesting. It's really new words applied to the things we know about, but how did that person end up coming into a Volvo dealership and buy a car at that time? What journey took that person who didn't have a car and wanted a car to end up even thinking of Volvo and ending up at that dealership, and so on and so forth? So we got to map the journeys that people take to our business. And every journey is made up of touch points. And any touch point is dynamite. It could be the dealer was a bad dealer and you didn't buy the car. You got to make sure that now that you know the touch points along the journey, that each touch point is favorable to you. That we call them sometimes moments of truth. Yes, that was wonderful. And then you move on in your journey toward where you were going. Very important to do that mapping. Personas marketing helps the people who do copy work and messaging to better understand the customer target. Is this a woman of 35 to 45 years of age who's middle class, married or not married? You develop personas to represent the kind of person you're trying to message to. And there's a lot of work with that happening. Content marketing, it describes the fact that besides sending ads all the time to people, maybe we should be knowing what they're interested in and developing content developed by us where they have a better feeling about your company because you're caring about things they care about. So there's the manufacturing of content that will be shared with our customers that please our customers and help our customers. Another phenomenon taking place is influencer marketing. A woman, famous singer, Lady Gaga, let's say, she has so many followers that if they see her using a certain hair shampoo, where the brand is very obvious, they may go to that brand. And in fact, if Lady Gaga wanted to, she could influence a lot of behavior that's worth millions of dollars. So I don't know if we can control that or if it's good. We should be aware of that some influencers with a huge following are actually earning money in announcing what products they favor. Now, neuromarketing is an entirely different thing, which is that we can test the consumer reaction to our commercials, our videos, our print ads by putting something on the heads of a sample of people and seeing whether the moment they see that ad or watch a video, if their brain if we were mapping the waves from their brain waves, and if there's a blip, it meant something happened about something you said in your ad that's worth looking at. Was it a blip that was pleasant or unpleasant or what? But there's so much work now by people in brain, how brains operate, how the mind works, how the mind thinks. And these people, we have one person on our faculty, Moran Cerf. Moran Cerf is our neuromarketer. He is fantastic. He's in the marketing department. And he's telling us things we never even believed or felt possible about behavior. And then there's the whole augmented reality marketing. Are you using augmented reality to dramatize any new products? For example, if you have a new product, someone may not buy it without actually wanting to experience it first. So put those goggles onto their head and let them look at a little drama, a little video, and they will feel that they are using the product and knowing a lot about it. So more work there. And lean marketing is a statement that when we are going to make new products, we should not take a long time and tie up a lot of resources to make the final perfect product. We should rather make a simple version of it, go out and test it. We'll learn a lot, change it, make it better, test it again. Be lean and quick in your marketing. Don't look for perfection, and you'll end up much better than if you take a lot of time to make the perfect product and it doesn't turn out to be perfect. So the reason for this slide really is to say that a lot of new things happen in marketing every decade, and you got to be on top of those things. Now let me just move on. And I'm almost finished, so I could hear your questions. What kind of recovery are we going to have from COVID? Some cities are in the midst of bad infection rates, and some are ready. So everything, we got to watch the cities that become ready. And if I were a manufacturer selling something, I would concentrate my effort where the cities are opening up and be there and learning what would be next. And we have to realize that many consumers will vary in whether they're going to wear masks or not, and that will make a very big difference. And that correlates with the location. We have in the United States blue states and red states. In blue states, most people are wearing masks when they go out in public, and in the red states, they're defiant and they think they're not gonna get ill or something. The hardest businesses to open up are personal service businesses like beauty shops, gyms, restaurants, where people would be present and you don't know if they are infected or not. And these places have to each work through their problems. Same with hotels and airplanes and cruises, and movie theaters will be hurt, concerts. Wherever people and crowds gather, it's going to be slower to have that happen, and you have to find solutions there. Weddings, funerals will have timing problems, and the colleges, we're learning just now, if we can get students to learn a lot, the argument is to do much more computer-based education, learning your subject on the computer rather than in a class hearing a professor lecturing and so on. So the question is, will there be a reshaped recovery? Now, reshape is the notion that things went down fast and they're going to be back to normal fast. That is very rare, except for those businesses that are necessary to operate once again for just our food and health. Most businesses will have U-shape recovery. And how long will it take? Well, here's my prediction that it's going to be between 2 and 4 years to get back to a normal economy. 2 years if some conditions are met. If the nation develops an early and easy antibody test, and they know which people are safe in public, and vaccine that is fairly reliable comes along in a year or two and is well distributed to the people. And then the nation helps those people who are needy and has, puts out a very big budget of social help for these people. And then starts to look at its own infrastructure, that it could create so many jobs just repairing the bridges, the roads. And if all of those things are happening, we might be back to normal in 2 years. This is optimistic. Otherwise, it could take 4 years before we have full employment. I'm talking full recovery, things being back to normal. And so that's still not comforting, but that's the story. A point I would like to make about, we use one index called GDP, Gross Domestic Product, to evaluate the performance of an economy. In other words, if GDP goes up, it means the country has produced more goods and services. And we don't know anything about whether the people in the country are happier or have better health or anything like that. So we are now hoping that each country also develops at least the second measure, because we know GDP can go up, but happiness can go down. GDP will go up if people work longer hours and make more product. But if the longer hours destroy families and health, then happiness or well-being has gone down. So I happen to be a fan of the Nordic countries, and there are 5. That's Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Iceland. And I just published an article called Nordic Capitalism, which has 3 points, and the 4th point is those countries all have a better health system that is a lower cost system available to everyone. And they have colleges free or close to being free in cost. And they have a very good social assistance program for those in need. And all of that comes to you because you're willing to pay higher taxes. Actually, the higher taxes would be paid largely by the wealthier people. In other words, the trade-off is, yes, my taxes go up for many people, but then I don't have to worry about the health system. The hospital takes care of me, and I don't have to worry that I can't get my kids and pay for their college. So I wrote a whole piece about why Nordic capitalism makes more sense. And then the next thing is the problem of income inequality. The problem is that capitalism is the best system we have for creating productivity, but how is the productivity gains being shared? Well, when some of management gets 500 or 300 times more pay than the average worker, I think that is going to create more and more billionaires and more poor people. And so we need to charge higher taxes on the rich. And the real way I would do it in India is I would say that in any company, no one in management should be earn more than 50 times what the median worker in that company gets paid. And by the way, that's 50 times what the average worker gets paid is a livable, a very livable salary. Peter Drucker, the father of modern management, said that in the old days, the boss got 20 times the average worker's salary. 20 was the number. I mean, does that mean that Henry Ford got 20? Well, maybe that was an exception. But when I say 50 times, we should put a cap in how much more we're paying the people who manage our businesses so that we could leave more of the wealth generated to more people. Okay, let me move on with my 5 conclusions so we can have a discussion. Most industries will recover, but at very different rates. The essential industries will recover fast, and those that are performing, the performing arts and that bring a lot of people together, will be slower in getting on their feet. 2, more businesses, I hope, will move from what we call shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. Shareholder means that the company exists to make profit for the owners, period, those who have stock. Stakeholder capitalism means more companies are operating to reward all the stakeholders, who are the customers, the employees, the suppliers, and the distributors. All of them are a team, and they all get rewarded. And then I added the second thing, that more companies are worrying about social problems, and therefore should adopt a problem too, to show they are caring by doing something about water shortages, doing something about over timbering, or something, showing the care. And that will help them too. Third finding is economic recovery to full employment will take between 2 and 4 years in many places. Next, legislators need to start doing what they're paid for to fix the nation's health system, to make the education and the college system better, and the social assistance programs better. And finally, that COVID, as awful as it has been, what it did to the economy is it increased the speed of adoption of the digital economy and so on. So here's something as a company you might think deeply about. Within 5 years, if you're found to be in the same business that you are in now, you're going to be out of business. By that, I mean innovation is the key to your success. Creativity, not thinking that the world owes you a steady flow of customers wanting the same products. People are changing at a faster rate than ever. And so you got to change at a faster rate than you've normally changed. So thanks for your attention. I look forward to learning from other speakers and people and from you about improving our business and our marketing effectiveness. Thank you very much. Now I'll stay with you, and Garima, as a professor, you've been wonderful introducing me. I wish you could travel with me when I do these talks with your introduction. Thank you.
Thank you so much for, this was a gigantic way for us to handle in terms of information and a true learning experience. This past 40 minutes with you has been, every inch that you've spoken about is actually a learning experience for us. Our students are very eager, sir, to ask their questions. First student is Simran Bansal.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, sir. It's
Yes,
an honor to be here, sir. Sir, your blog Fix Capitalism contains general discussion and suggestion how to save capitalism from itself. So you have proposed fixing capitalism, but what is your opinion about socialism with some reforms?
Okay, I'll repeat your question then. It has to do with what my opinion is about socialism as opposed to capitalism.
Yes, sir.
Yes, let me say that the word socialism is so misunderstood. It turns out that to me, the possibilities are capitalism, socialism, and communism. Socialism normally means that the government plays a more active role in influencing the economy than would happen under capitalism. Capitalism, the extreme people who want an extreme form of capitalism, they want total freedom. They want minimum government, no government, minimum regulations. Now, even that kind of capitalism doesn't exist anymore because government will be active in some ways. Now, if you start moving toward a situation where the government actually runs one or more industries. Well, our government runs a post office system. If the government runs the electrical system, the steel industries, the government runs the making of pastry or bread and things like that. I mean, socialism is a state where we trust that government can run businesses pretty well and should be responsible for some critical industries, all the way to communism, where government runs all manufacturing, all businesses, and has a central plan where they know how many television sets the country should produce because of the number that now exist and the need that exists. So in my country, what's happening is the right, those who are conservative, they don't want much government touching business. They want it out, and what they do is they call everything socialism when government does anything that they don't like. So they're confusing the vocabulary of, capitalism has many gradations. Japanese capitalism is different than Chinese capitalism and Swedish capitalism. So basically, it's a messy subject. And a country, and I would say, to finish with your question, when someone says something is socialistic, have them explain what they mean by that, because you'll find that their thinking is probably messy. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your answer, sir.
Our next student, Shivai Softa. He has a question for you.
Hello.
Shivai, can you please unmute yourself? Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Given that
Good morning.
it's morning in America, my question for you is, should we take funds from advertising and general marketing and shift them to developing more innovative services and products to create better brand equity?
It's an interesting question, because some people may say that we spend so much money in advertising. If we could really use that same money to make better products and newer types of products, they will sell themselves, especially if you've hit the mark. Now, this goes to a very important concept that Peter Drucker, the father of management, said. He said, the aim of marketing is to make selling unnecessary. Now, that puzzles people. I mean, you need selling, but what he was saying is, if you use your money as a company to make something that people really want, it doesn't take much advertising or selling to let people know it exists, and people will line up to buy it. And you know, from certain automobiles, when they come out, there's a line already without any advertising, because, and that's going to be true of the electric car, and so on and so forth. So as the basic idea is, yes, don't rely so much on pounding into our head lots of ads about the same product over and over. In other words, what is your opinion of Coca-Cola? Should Coca-Cola keep telling us the same story, that a Coke makes you happy, and the bottle is always in the picture? Or should it use more of the money to make another drink they could also sell that will not be like Coke, but be healthier or something else? Or should everything stay in the drinking business, and maybe they should be in the food business too? So you're absolutely right that there's a trade-off. So whenever you see a company with lots of advertising money spent on saying the same thing and nothing new, you got to really question whether you would buy stock in that company, because you wish they would put their money into developing better products. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So our next question is from Satvik Sharma.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, my question is, what could be the cost-effective and best marketing technique to reach the target audience?
Well, that's, you know, we would have to have the answer would vary with respect to what kind of product and what kind of people we're trying to reach. I would say that if you can go digital, as opposed to using broadcast. By the way, TV has been the most effective instrument for selling anything to anyone for many years, for the generation, namely expensive, beautiful productions of ads. And you know how important that happens during big occasions like the Super Bowl games or something like that, where a lot of attention is being paid to the whole country watching a certain ad. You know, that's very expensive. It's not the kind of way to reach people normally. Every time you've spent a couple of $1 million making an ad, you could have reached a lot more people digitally. If you had access to the their email addresses, their phone numbers, and so on. And using social media, Facebook, Google, and all the others could be more efficient. I would say that every situation varies, but be very careful in not overspending on means of advertising, which you'll certainly, by the way, overspending is a self-corrective. By definition, you'll know it. It will hit you in the face that you're spending all that money and not selling anything worthwhile. So therefore, it is self-corrective, but you did lose all that money in the meantime. So I'd rather be a lean communicator, lean communication, trying out smaller things that might really work and be like a virus going from mouth to mouth. By the way, the most effective advertising is word of mouth. Getting some people to talk about you. Now, the point I'm going to make there is that your best advertisers are your happy customers. They're your best. So you should spend your money not on advertising, but on making your customers happy. And if you're really successful, you have a set of customers who are your voice in the world. They actually are talking about you a lot, how good you are, your car dealership, or whatever else is involved. So word of mouth is the best advertising that can help your company be known to other people who will begin to buy from your company. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we have our last student, Punne Bajaj.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. How are you, sir?
Yes.
So which form of advertising will be more prominent in future?
Okay, which form of advertising? I think that first of all, as I said before, television sets were very powerful ways to interrupt us, by the way. I think here's the problem with interruptive advertising. I'm watching a program, and then every 10 or 20 minutes, there's an ad, and I really use that to go to the bathroom or to go to the kitchen and get some food. And the question is being raised really whether that interruptive advertising is really effective. And the point really is that you should try to be selling a product to people who are aware of you and the others who are buying the product. Let me take the example of Harley Davidson, which is used a lot, this motorcycle company. But your job is to not only to produce a brand, but to create a brand community, a community of people who use your brand, are proud of using your brand, and in fact, they like to meet the others who also use your brand. And in fact, the Harley David people, we call them the Hogs, Harley Ownership Group, HOG, H-O-G. They ride their motorcycles together. They raise money together. They have become a community. So if you have the idea that you're not just running an ad, you're creating a brand. By the way, it's very important that you're a brand builder. And there are many ways to build a brand and make it stronger. And especially if you enthuse people who are using your product and they would like to know more about other people too, you're moving toward a community. And a community is educating itself and doing the work you don't need to spend much money on. Actually, there's a wonderful study. I'm trying to remember which it was. It showed that the companies that have built great brands spend less on brand advertising. That a lot of the advertising is taking place with their own customers, word of mouth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one last question. Actually, this curiosity of interacting with you is not just restricted with our students, but one of our own marketing faculties is here who wants to ask a question, Ms. Kavita Kurana. She's a professor for marketing. She's here with us, sir. She would like to ask something from you.
Yes, by all means.
Good morning, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Same here, sir. And thanks for a very insightful session. It was rarely pleasure listening to you. We have all been fortunate to go through your insightful and very deep works. And my question to you is taking a cue from your closing remarks. I want to ask you, does a brand have as much value in the current world order where the life cycles of a brand is becoming shorter? And do you think we as marketers should focus more on innovation vis-a-vis brand building? Your thoughts, sir?
Excellent question about our brand lives shortening. Well, it depends on what brand you're going to take as an illustration, in the sense that let's again go to Coca-Cola, which is always refreshing its brand. You remember, it wasn't always Coke makes you happy. Coke was originally more about just sociability, and a group gets together and they all drink their Coke. And so it's very important for anyone with a strong brand to keep refreshing it and even changing the value proposition sometimes. And in fact, when they introduced the new Coke, that was a failure. But the idea was this was going to be a Coke that would have maybe less calories or something, and be a little healthier. But the brand, yes, most companies are organized with the big ones with multi-brands. I mean, you take a company like Unilever with thousands of brands, really. But even Unilever is questioning that. What Unilever is doing is asking each brand manager to figure out, this is a new development, what is the purpose of the brand? This question was never asked, because as long as a brand made money, you didn't ask the purpose. Make sure you have a purpose that comes through the brand's very existence, that makes the person really care about the brand because of what the brand is doing. Not only for the person, but maybe for the community, maybe for the world. So I'm a big fan of branding and its importance. Now, your question seems to suggest maybe we have to do other things to be alive and well as a company besides good job of branding. And I would say the other important thing is putting money into innovation and creative thinking. And it's too much money being spent on brand sustenance, and too little being spent on researching and innovating. That's an interesting question. And some companies, maybe, let's take some companies that, like Kodak. Kodak is dead now. You used to get your film from Kodak. Should Kodak just be relishing the fact that everyone knew that yellow box and the beauty of cameras and so on, and memories, or should it have been innovating the iPhone? You should know this, that Kodak actually had the original idea for the iPhone, but with a camera. But they didn't want that because people had cameras. And so they buried the idea. And so again, to what extent will you be better off as an organization thinking like the Japanese think? The Japanese have this thing called Kaizen, improving everything all the time. I mean, the factory worker in Japan is thinking so deeply about what he's doing, he might even say, you know, what I'm doing could be done by a machine. And he's not afraid of saying that because he has lifetime employment. They'll give him another job instead. So this thinking of improving everything all the time is a mantra that would help a company last much longer than a company that says, oh, I'm spending a lot of money building my brand and keeping it alive and keeping the. So if it's a trade-off, I would bet more money on innovation than on just brand sustenance. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we've taken your breakfast time, isn't it? So
well, the fact is I avoided breakfast until this is over, but thank you. You were right. I'm going to have breakfast next.
Yeah. So very small last segment, which is very special for all of us, is a brief rapid fire. So we all know the professional side of you, and a lot of our students idolize you. They see you as a role model. They really want to know little aspects of your life. So can we have this rapid fire with you, sir?
Yes.
A brief one. Okay, so as the word says, AEG has this rapid fire. It has to be rapid and full of fire. The first question is, so we've seen in your interviews, in fact today also, you've always spoken about your wife, you've praised her, you've always taken her name, Miss Nancy KOTLER. So what has been her role in your journey?
Yes, Nancy's been my love of my life, and she is a good critic. So when I write a short article, and I've been writing short articles always, the first one I turn to is Nancy. I said, would you read it? And she's always finding not just spelling errors, but she's finding thoughts and so on. So Nancy is a partner of mine in my own work too. Partner
in totality, isn't it? Okay, your most memorable experience of lifetime is?
Well, yes, let me just say the most memorable thing was going to India with my wife as two students in a sense for 9 months to Calcutta, to Jaipur, to Agra, to everything north. The thing I really look back at and say, why didn't I go to southern India, which is another type of India? Yeah. I was up in the north all the time because I guess I had to contact for my dissertation the people in companies that were in Delhi and north. But that was an amazing experience. Yeah, and I have had other amazing experiences. That's one.
So we look forward to host you yet again, sir, for the
yes.
South India.
I always enjoyed visiting India. Lots of friends.
Great. If marketing would not have been happened to you, then what would have been your second expertise or an area of expertise apart from this?
Well, that's a good question. You know, if you trace my work now, more recently, I began to look at bigger pictures. Marketing is what companies do, and companies are surrounded by problems. And I began to start looking at capitalism as a system, an economic system, and wrote the book called Confronting Capitalism, and found out there's a lot of problems that capitalism skirts over that have to be faced. Mm-hmm. And then I got interested in the fact that democracy itself is changing and not really working, that too many rich people every politician needs a wealthy person to get started. And therefore that politician, if he's elected or she's elected, has to support the policies of the person who's putting out the money. So that democracy is the problem. So I wrote the book, Democracy in Decline. And then I began to say, well, what tells us whether some policy is a good policy or not? And I discovered the writings on the common good. And I wrote a book called The Common Good. It's called Advancing the Common Good. That's a wonderful standard because whenever there's a policy passed, that policy is either going to make some people happy and some people unhappy. Any big step or legislation hurts some people and helps some people. And the best solution would be, has it helped more people than it's hurt?
Yeah.
So if you assume that you can do a calculus of happiness and that the policy by passing increases net happiness, it's a good policy. And in fact, the people who are happier should compensate the people who've been hurt, and then they're both winners. Because I always look for something that's called win-win solutions rather than zero-sum solutions where someone wins big and everyone and a lot of other people lose.
Right. As a manager, I think this is very important to achieve the win-win targets. Next question is that who were you like during your college days? So what were those days like? In which activity did you involve yourself in the most?
Yes, at the University of Chicago, I involved myself very much in studying with Professor Milton Friedman and economics. And even when a group of us students would go for coffee, we would be happy if we could spot Friedman sitting somewhere in that shop, and he would welcome us to talk about his theories of economics. When I was at MIT, I was just fascinated with what was called the Media Lab and the work going on there. And one of my experiences was with the person who invented cybernetics. And at the age of 3 or the age of 5, he knew Greek and Latin. I'm trying to remember his name, but we met him and we spent a fantastic time in the faculty club talking to this guy who invented cybernetics and was a genius.
So I think a legend like you was always surrounded by legends.
Yes, it's important to be with interesting people.
Yes, true. What or who is your ultimate stress reliever?
You know, work is my stress reliever rather than work being the cause of stress. I thoroughly enjoy being onto a new idea and starting to work at it. I get just lost into the space of working out this idea. I was recently, just yesterday, thinking about how people always have, they say, do you believe in order or chaos? They're opposite. Yeah. And I end up thinking now I'm going to write an article that with every dichotomy like that, good and evil, order and chaos and so on, in order there is some chaos, and in chaos there is some order, and there's a way to dissolve. So I'm going to write something about these polarities that are not real polarities. They're not fully polarities. And so when I get lost in that, I'm lost to whatever else is happening in the world. And that's why I love to write short articles. I put out a new book called Losing Our Democracy. It just came out. It's going to be only it's on your Kindle if you have a Kindle. Yeah. But basically it's 58 articles I wrote, short articles between the year 2015 and 2019 with all the tumult of a new president and so on and so forth. And short articles get me very involved and away from whatever else might be happening.
Right. One last thing. One thing according to you which is of utmost importance for living a balanced life.
Well, I think health is the important thing, to make sure that nothing you're doing is injuring or shortening your life. And therefore a period of real training or exercise, not on the basis of every day, but every Tuesday and Friday or whatever the pair of days, you take an hour off and do a run, or you bike or something like that, is the beginning of it all. And then if you staying in touch with your family and your kids, paying a lot of attention to them and being available to them. And then also going out and being alert about the world. So you're not just caring about your family, you're caring about lives of people. One of the things that always motivated me is to help make the world a better place and more people better off. So that's a motivation. I think that got me into economics, because you always say, well, isn't that the key to what's affecting our lives? And that's what got me into marketing, because it was service. It was creating, satisfying needs that people had. Of course, there's many ethical questions in marketing. I mean, do you want people to have bad things for themselves? Do we want to keep selling cigarettes to people because there's a need for it? No, we should have some judgment there. But then I got into the whole question of, are we organizing society right with capitalism and with democracy? What are the alternatives? And so, but the caring about helping people live a better, more people living a better life is my motivation.
Such a noble thought. Before we close this program, so last golden words from your end for all these students, management students who are listening to you, who consider you as their ultimate role model. Few golden words for them, sir.
Well, find your passion. You're going to have to study various things that don't make sense, just like when you were very young, you had to learn geometry and you wonder why you're ever going to need to know that. So you're going to have to study a lot of things to be really skilled. But find what your passion is. What impact do you want to have on other people and on lifestyles and society? And it could be a big or a small impact, but at least you get pleasure from growing with that wish to know more about something and make things more perfect in your mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. As you say, marketing is a race without a finishing line. We believe so is learning. So we have been and will always look up to you for the kind of resource value you add, your guidance and intelligence. On behalf of the Asian Education Group, I extend a very hearty thanks to you, sir, for honoring us with your presence today. As a token of appreciation, we would like to present a memento to you for your indispensable presence here.
Oh my, how wonderful. I will treasure it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And with this, Asian Education Group would always cherish your presence in future as well, today, in the past, and in future. And we would want you to be a sustained and continuous member of this family of ours.
Thank you, and the best wishes to everyone at the school and to your communities where you're living. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I will take leave now.
Yes, sure. You can have your breakfast, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for such a wonderful experience. Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.